Hey, g'day. It's Roy from Sulphur Foundry down in New Zealand. Just sitting down, getting ready to do a couple of installs and tech videos. But just thought I'd knock up a quick impromptu video, just as a result of some conversations I've had with a few people over the weekend. And it's just touching on some of the negativity and politics and industry that seems to surround this cool little hobby of ours. Um, so be warned, this is going to be some negativity in the video. That's mainly focusing on it, um, and maybe calling it out, and just making you guys aware of some of the stuff that I've kind of learned in my short 18 months in this hobby. Um, and just things to be aware of and some pitfalls not to fall into. First one, and this is quite a biggie. It's pretty rife throughout the hobby, and that is kind of saber snobbery, or really a lot of the hate that seems to exist on two of the mainstream manufacturers, and that's Ultrasabers and Saberforge. And if you're a regular user of any of the online Facebook forums, any of the other forums out there, you'll notice that Saberforge and Ultra Saber hatred is pretty rife, and that's for a number of reasons. Everything from personalities of owners through to their electronic build quality, through to the size of the hilts. It's pretty bizarre. And a real shame. I mean, here in New Zealand, we've got something called tall poppy syndrome, which is basically if somebody's, relatively prominent and good at what they do, you tend to want to bring them down a peg or two. And it's a bit of a shame. If somebody's really successful and they've built a large business up, got to give them some credit for that. They do make mistakes. Maybe accept that, move on, rather than jumping on some fashionable bandwagon of just shitting on them all the time. And probably the most hated on manufacturer in the hobby is Saberforge, for a variety of reasons. Owner's got a bit of a personality, apparently. I've never experienced it, so why should I care? He's upset people in the past. You read forums about sort of borrowing ideas on designs and things like that. Whereas you see another manufacturer do it and they claim, it's heavily inspired by, whereas if Saberforge do it, they're blatantly copying somebody else. There's it's just fashionable to kind of look at Saberforge in their negative light, and it's a shame because they do some absolutely cracking hilts. Some really good products. I really like their blades. I think their blades are, one of the better ones on the market, especially for dueling, which is what we tend to do down here. Price point as well. I mean, I got one of these on my desk. Saberforge Bastion, $75 for an empty. I mean, look at the milling on that for $75. Absolutely nuts. Up until recently, I've used an Ultrasaber Sentinel, which is one of their larger hilts, for my daily jeweler. It's very plain, which people, count as a negative towards Ultrasabers. But hell, it's so comfy for dueling. It was my daily jeweler for ages, and I've only recently switched to one of these, and that's a Saberforge ASP build, based on the Gladius. Gladius was my first second-hand purchase of a proper saber. That cost me 75 New Zealand dollars, which is about 50 US, off a local trade site. And it's cool. Loved the design. Unfortunately, the hilt is so bloody short. It's really uncomfortable for dueling, so I made myself an ASP version. What other company other than MHS? Sorry, the MHS system from Custom Saber Shop allows you to come along and actually build your own saber from parts. That's a real bonus, but still people will, find ways to criticize it. People shut on their electronics. They talk about their electronics installations. Now, I've had endless arguments on, Facebook groups. I've personally worked on around about 4 dozen Saberforge hilts. There's a guy over here in New Zealand who digs his hand, puts his hand in his own pocket, and he's helped increase the availability of well-priced hilts over here in NZ to help grow the community, and it's really worked. Just over 14 months, we've gone from pretty much a zero coordinated saber community here in New Zealand to about 250 regular members in our Facebook group. And a lot of the guys are picking up Saberforge hilts. What the guy does, he brings them in bulk, pays all the GST and import on them, and distributes them with low cost shipping locally. And because he gets a bulk discount on the purchase, works out. People in New Zealand don't get killed on shipping. The hilts actually work out a bit cheaper for them if they bought them direct. And these will come with electronics installations, and Kiwis, or people being people, oh, okay, it's coming green, I actually want it in red, so it comes to me to do the install and change everything over. So I've worked on, like 4 dozen Saberforge hilts, stunts, champion installs. I've not worked on the top tier. No one's put their hand in the pocket and picked up an RGB saber from Saberforge yet. So each one of these is a complete strip down replacement of switch, LED, and reconstruction. And these things, they're built to a price point. It's a mass-produced saber, but we've not had one fail yet out of 4 dozen sabers that have come through. Saberforge have a high turnover. They're going to have a low percentage of products that will fail, and that can be anything from a recharge port to a solder joint or something like that. So in number, they're going to have a number of people who are going to be disappointed in the fact that sabers failed on them. They do have a 12-month warranty, remember. But the electronics are nowhere near as bad as what people are saying online, and that is from personal experience. That's on the 4 dozen hilts that I've worked on. And all of our members here in New Zealand have not had failures. That's kind of saying something. And that's been sabers that have been brought in since May last year. So that's, stuff over the last 11 months or so. Yet you still find people online that will absolutely shit on Saberforge for their electronics installs. Oh, it doesn't have a chassis. Oh, they always fail. If they always failed, that company wouldn't be in business anymore because they'd lose so much money actually fixing stuff. They would have gone under years ago. So just stop it. Stop the hate. Stop. Unless you've personally had an issue with a Saberforge failing on you, first step, don't bitch about it online. Send it back to the warranty guys, and in most cases they'll actually sort it out. If they give you poor customer service, sure, give some feedback online. But there are people probably online that have never had a Saberforge, and somebody will ask, "Oh, I'm thinking about buying a Saberforge." Don't buy them; their electronics are shit. Probably never even own one. Okay. That thing really grates. Same with Ultrasabers as well. Ultrasabers, God, they're not pretty installs. You take one apart and it's a bit of a nest of wires, but you actually go through the saber and all of the solder point joints are competent, they're good, and they're strong. So in terms of, again, failure, you're going to have a low percentage of stuff that's going to fail anyway at the factory. That's inevitable, unfortunately. But they're actually built okay. Not as bad as people are saying. Okay, so but yet people will parrot online. Don't buy an Ultrasabers. The electronics always fail. No, they don't. I own 3. I duel with them. They haven't failed on me yet. The other guys here have Ultrasabers. They haven't failed on them yet. It's absurd. I even had a long debate with he was an installer. You know, we just randomly went at it on an online Facebook group, and I said, look, guys, you know, we've worked on 4 dozen hilts, and I showed him. I said, this is how stuff is coming out of the Saberforge factory now, and I showed him a picture of the electronics package that was on my desk that came out of a Saber, and he just dismissed it. Oh, that's our ASP build. That's not their normal install. And I'm like, no, that's what's coming out of all of the Sabers that I've worked on for the past 11 months. And he just refused to believe it and just kept saying, Saberforge is shit, Saberforge is shit. I think in the end it got so heated I ended up getting banned from the group. He's still there. But that's my next topic, Facebook groups, affiliations and cliques. So my message is, look, from experience, probably at some point in the past, Saberforge were maybe a bit dodgy. They've upset people in other ways. But if you're buying a Saberforge now and you voice it online and everyone tells you not to buy a Saberforge because their electronics are shit and they're going to fail and nothing's going to work, don't take it on board. It's just parrot hate, and it's so ingrained. It's kind of really irritating. We've never had issues. Okay, not saying you won't have an issue. You might be one of the low percent of people that unfortunately have a problem, but there are just going to be lots of happy Saberforge owners out there that regularly duel and play with their Saberforge hilts. That's it. People moan about Ultrasabers being big as well. Yes, their hilts are a little bit bigger, okay, than the average Saberforge hilt. That's the Saberforge Apprentice. This is one of the larger hilts that comes out of Ultrasabers. The small initiates will be about the same size as that, maybe a little bit bigger in diameter. And everyone will slate Ultrasabers for having big chunky hilts. But Saber Trio, okay, have the same internal diameter as Ultrasabers, okay, and I measured the hilt size of my Aaron, which I love from Saber Trio, really nice saber, and it was a 37mm diameter hilt. I measured this one, it was 38. There's only 1mm in it, and that's just off one of my random sabers. Saberforge come in at around about 34, so they're noticeably smaller. But everyone raves about Saber Trio. Don't mention the size. They don't, run them down for being a chunky hilt. Yeah, they do with Ultrasabers. It's just this ingrained, boring parrot repetition, unfortunately, that is rife within these groups. Don't buy into it. Don't be one of these people that just turns these groups into a big echo chamber of the haters. Right, that's it. That's my comment on the Ultrasabers and Saberforge haters. No, it's not. One extra point. You might mention you want to buy Saberforge or Ultrasabers. People will turn around and say, no, don't do that. Buy Vader's Vault. Okay, there's no comparison between you wanting to buy your first Ultrasabers or Saberforge hilt at whatever price point that is, that you're going to get in a relatively quick time, even though Saberforge and Ultrasabers have been kind of screwed since Christmas in terms of shipping. They got overwhelmed. There's no comparison between that and the Vader's Vault that you're going to pay a shitload of money for and wait 4 to 6 months for. Okay. Anyone that, when you say you want to buy your first saber, get your first cheap beta, have a shitload of fun with it. Just because somebody else has gone through the process 2 years down the line, they now think that Vader's Vault is the bee's knees. Just don't buy into that. It's ridiculous. It's not the same kind of comparison. Right, and that is finally the end of the Ultrasabers and Saberforge hate. Other things I kind of wish I knew before jumping into the groups. There are some affiliations with these Facebook groups. So the Custom Lightsaber Owners Group, Saberforge Park Sabers and Ultrasabers, That's owned and run by Saberforge. So if you try and promote other manufacturers on there or kind of run down Saberforge, you're going to get the ban hammer. That's quite common. But it's their group, their rules. So not running them down for that, just be aware of it. The Vault's obviously run by Vader's Vault. That's a relatively open group. I've still managed to get banned from there for arguing with somebody who was giving me shit. Somebody asked me what my fucking problem was, and I told them to fuck off, and I got banned for that. They didn't. So, bit of cliquiness, weirdness going on there. And, what else? So the Vault will be banned for an elite lightsaber society. They're a bunch of uptight arseholes. And you'll find another couple of videos on ELS, unfortunately. They take saber snobbery to a complete new level. So yeah, just be aware. If you want a nice open group where you can actually freely discuss your likes, dislikes, get some really cool information, try a couple of independent-ish groups. That is Lightsabers Club. That's run by the guys over at Rebel Chumps channel, Jerome. He's a really nice guy. Aaron Lynn also, he owns Pastor and Wonder Force. He is an admin there, but most of their admin tends to fall to moderators, so it is pretty easy going. You won't find any banhammer coming in too frequently there. I've got a group as well, Lightsabers Anonymous. Just go search for that. Had a bit of momentum really. I think we're up to about 400 and something members, so we're doing pretty well. And that's a free open group. You can discuss pretty much what you like. There is one major rule on there, which is don't be an arsehole. And if you stick to that, you're gonna enjoy that group. Okay, okay, kind of vibes to the group. Yeah, I've mentioned it before. Elite Lightsaber Society, uptight bunch. And the Vault, yeah, pretty open. Still managed to get banned from it, but such is life. What I'm saying, it's pretty easy to create another account and slip back in, so you can keep an eye on what's going on. That's my job. I'm an internet marketer. Okay, third topic, hot glue. Man, I posted one of my. I've recently reinstalled my jeweler. Posted a cool little pic over the weekend. Nice tidy installation, you know, all below board wiring, so the board is kind of just sat there on the chassis, all looks nice and tight. And then because I use it for jeweling, I err on the side of caution with my stuff, and I do installs as well down here at Sulphur City Foundry. I come from a physics background, technical background. I've been soldering since I was like 8 years old. I know all the electronics theory, so you know I'm not going in blind. I know all the theory behind this stuff. I know the difference between well, you know, let's put it this way: I can identify all the parts on a PCB, mainly because I built some going through school and college, just on engineering projects with local electrical companies and stuff like that. So, you know, I'm pretty adept at yeah, putting things together. Anyway, so I've got a nice chassis, nice 18650 board. I decided to put some hot glue, dribbled it across the terminals that I'd soldered, and this is a kind of a bit of a safety measure. Couldn't use heat shrink, couldn't use anything else wrapped around the chassis and the board in case it came loose, because the chassis was actually a bit tight and I was too lazy to sand it down. And because I am not adverse to hot glue, I just use hot glue instead. And first comment when I posted it up saying, hey, I've just reinstalled my saber. Oh, I wouldn't have used hot glue there, I would have used heat shrink. I don't get it. Hot glue is a freaking godsend. It's an insulator electrically. It's you can put it on fairly accurately with a decent hot glue gun. And I'm not saying it's a replacement for solder, to keep stuff together in your lightsaber. absolutely not. I mean, the way I use hot glue is very sparingly, and I use it in all the right places. And that could be from a adhesion aspect, could be from an insulation, you know, safety point of view, as I did here. Like I said, just in case the board came loose, I don't want live contacts hitting the inside of a electronically conductive metal hilt. It's got a shorter board and cost me, you know, 100 New Zealand dollars for a new board. You know, probably plus a new PCB on the battery. It's just not worth it, you know. Insulate it with hot glue, a little blob of hot glue, and the picture's probably flashed up by now in post editing of what it was, and you can actually see the hot glue runs over the side and it's adhering to the chassis as well, because I just wanted to you know, glue that part of the chassis, the board down to the chassis on that end of the board. But yet somebody felt it was yeah, that they had to comment that they wouldn't use hot glue and they'd use some other method. Shut up, seriously. I do installations for people. I'm pretty good at installing without blowing my own trumpet. I'm getting a really good reputation down here. If somebody comes in and they want an installation, I will sit down. I will ask them, the client, what their opinion on hot glue is. I showed them previous installs about how I've used it, and you can go and check out a couple of videos that I posted online as well. And I explain the benefits of using it. And I've not had one to date that's had an issue on it. And I've talked with other installers on this as well, around the stigma about using hot glue. And they same as me, if you use it sparingly in the right place, it's a really good tool to have at your disposal. Talking about tools, my little hot glue gun, that's one of them. There's a little pink one. It's very cute, and its feelings get hurt when people kind of run it down for what it does. So yeah, if you want to feel like you have to comment about somebody's install that has a few blobs of hot glue in all the right places, seriously, shut up and just go away and be tedious with somebody else. Okay, that's my take on hot glue. Dodgy operators and scammers. There's been a rash of them recently. A couple of installers that have done a bit of a runner that previously, you know, had good reputations. And if you went on any of the groups, they would have had a fairly okay rep. And also people that will scam you in saber trades and stuff like this. It's a real shame. Jerome from Rebel Chump's channel, go and subscribe to his channel. It's really good. But you'll find a video on there where he it was resolved, but unfortunately got scammed with the guy out of Spain, I believe it was. Somebody else as well. That was also Spain, a different person. Dodgy a lot, the Spanish. And you do hear of a lot of horror stories. If you're trading with someone, just, you know, buyer beware. Be really smart. What's beeping? Yeah, got an alarm going off. That's my daily alarm to get me out of bed. I'm just going to ignore that. Okay, and yeah, just be careful who you give your money to. I mean, people will trust a significant amount of money to people who will do an installation on their saber, and they say it's going to take, you know, maybe a month, couple of months. Okay, cool, they might have a really good reputation, but when you start running into lead times like that, that might suggest that they're not able to cope with demand, and there's a few other things under the hood that you know, you might want to be wary of. Go and find another installer. That's pretty much it. Yeah, just be careful. Be careful who you give your money to. Yeah, I mean, there's an issue with, and this goes into my fifth and final comment, really, which is kind of ties in with the long wait times that people in the saber community kind of have to deal with. And, you know, people might turn around and say, okay, well, it's a hobby, it's not a, you know, it's not a proper business? Well, it is a proper business. These guys are in it to make money, whether it's an installer, whether it's a saber manufacturer. I personally wouldn't give, the good portion of $1,000 to somebody and expect to wait 6 months for a saber or an installation. I think that's just asking for trouble. May argue that you're paying for quality. Well, unfortunately, when you're running a business, and I've worked in the capacity of a business advisor down here in New Zealand for a couple of government, run organisations, and if a business isn't able to properly manage all aspects of the business, and that includes investment into supply chain, which is making your saber, again, might actually raise a couple of red flags. If you're giving somebody money and expecting to wait 4 to 6 months for a saber or 3 to 4 months for an installation, you're essentially giving them an interest-free loan for that period. Bit of a shame. And luckily, there's some companies that you don't experience this with, or not as much. Ultrasabers is one. If you want to buy a saber off Ultrasabers, I know they've had issues recently, but normally it's at your door within 5 days. If you're in the US, and probably only a little bit longer if you're overseas. In terms of turnaround, really good. I think Saberforge used to be a few weeks. You do hear some horror stories from them, but and I know they're still maybe got some long wait times as a knock-on from Christmas. But hopefully that'll come right. Going into companies with a huge wait time, not expecting to see a saber for a long period of time, that's just indicative of how much they want to invest in their company in terms of having a good fast turnaround. You can maintain quality and have a fast turnaround as well. That's just all I'm saying. Right. Okay, that's just really, this video is just things that I've picked up over 18 months that I maybe wish I knew when I was getting into the hobby. If I knew that, I maybe wouldn't have got banned from a couple of the the online groups arguing with saber snobs. And I think it was that probably annoyed me the most, because it was a guy came in and said he's just bought his first Ultra Saber, or was looking at an Ultra Saber, and this was in a vault, and he absolutely got shat on by the the cliquey Saberforge and Ultra Saber haters in there. And I just thought it was a really pathetic display, really. You got a guy enthusiastic coming in to buy his first saber. It's inexpensive, entry level. He would love it when he got it, and everyone's telling him no, he's doing it wrong, and go and buy something that you got to wait 6 months for. Just absolutely nuts. So be aware. Just be aware what goes on in the hobby and what to ignore. Just don't buy into it. Just ignore it. If you like a saber, go and buy it. That's pretty much all I've got to say on the subject. I'm going to stop this little impromptu video now. Got any comments? Leave them below. If you want to subscribe, go and subscribe down here, because I've got a load of cool technical videos coming up very shortly. And as always, I always end my videos. Enjoy your sabers. That's why we're all in the hobby. We're all Star Wars nerds. That's the reason we want to hit each other with noisy torches with plastic blades, is because we want to be Jedi or Sith, or we just want a little escape and something that we can enjoy. Don't buy into the negativity. Pick up your saber instead. Go and hit someone with it, preferably a consenting adult. Otherwise, you're going to get tased by the cops. But have fun. Tune in, subscribe. See you later.